Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. Bit of a feedback video, go through some of the comments, check out what has been happening in the comment section. Lots of comments, lots of debate there as usual. A few spammers have decided to join the comment section in recent times. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute, but be careful with spam comments in the comment section because they're trying to lure you into some type of scam, most likely. Now, as you can see, I'm outside again today. It's another beautiful day here in Madrid, about 18 degrees, not too cold. The sun is shining. A bit foggy this morning, so I didn't think that I would be able to do a video outdoors today, but I've decided that it's the best thing to do. Come outside, get a bit of fresh air, and not spend so much time indoors. Now we'll have a bit of a chat quickly about the health situation in the country at the moment. We mentioned yesterday that there are some parts of Spain, especially the north of the country, that are suffering a little bit at the moment because of COVID-19. We mentioned Burgos is under serious pressure, Asturias as well, also in the north of the country, and there's still quite a lot of restrictions in other places in the north. Aragon, for example, Navarra, for example, still with a lot of restrictions. Here in Madrid, things are fairly normal. Some of the health areas in the capital city are having their restrictions lifted, but there are still some places in the capital city and in the community where the health numbers are not good and some restrictions do apply still. Curfews around the country are still in place. Of course, the time of the curfew varies according to where you are. So for example, here in Madrid, the curfew begins at 12 midnight and goes through until 6 a.m. But in other parts of Spain, the curfew can begin at 10 p.m. and go through also to either 6 or 7 a.m. in the morning. People in Andalusia, as we know, are restricted to their municipalities, not allowed to leave municipalities at the moment down in that part of Spain, unless of course you have a very good reason to do so. Non-essential services down there in Andalusia also have to shut at 6 p.m. I believe, and I'm curious to know how it's going down there in Andalusia, how you're getting on with those new restrictions in place. What's it like down there at the moment, and how are these new rules and regulations being enforced? Let us know in the comment section what the situation is down there at the moment. Now, there's been a fair bit of talk in recent times about this new vaccine. Of course, it was announced last week that perhaps we're going to have a vaccine early in 2021. I've also read today that another company has announced that they also have a vaccine that could be ready early in the new year, and I think the success rate in the testing is even higher than the Pfizer vaccine that was announced last week. I think they said something along the lines that this new vaccine announced today has a 95% success rate in testing. Now, we all know that the health minister came out last week and said that the coronavirus vaccine will not be mandatory here in Spain, but there's a debate going on at the moment, and we mentioned this in yesterday's video, that perhaps this vaccine needs to be mandatory given the health situation in the country and around the world. Of course, there was a lot of feedback in the comment section about this, people saying that vaccines shouldn't be mandatory, other people saying that perhaps it should be mandatory, but I'm sure this debate on the COVID vaccine, whether it needs to be mandatory or not, is going to rage on over the next few months. Now, there was a fair bit of feedback about a couple of polls that I mentioned yesterday. I mentioned one poll in particular from the CIS here in Spain, and apparently 60% of people polled. I'm not sure how many people were polled, I can't remember. I think there was about a 3,500 people sample, but 60% of those people polled thought that they might become a mortal victim of COVID-19. I think I also mentioned that 54% of people surveyed had said that they had seen a psychologist over the last 9 months because they're having trouble coming to terms with the changing situation that this virus or this pandemic has caused. So quite a few people struggling mentally to come to terms with what's been happening over the last 9 months or so. And to be honest, it hasn't been easy. I've had my ups and downs like I imagine a lot of people have. I've had my good days, I've had my bad days. I've had trouble trying to work out what is exactly going on. Obviously, it hasn't helped my mental health reading some of the comments that have been left on the videos over the last 9 months. There's been lots of weird and wacky comments out there over that time. Lots of theories, lots of ideas, and I've had trouble getting my head around a lot of those comments. I don't think I've thought that I could die if I catch COVID, but I am worried about catching it and maybe ending up in hospital because, let's be honest, I'm not as young and as healthy as I once was. Now, I also mentioned in yesterday's video another survey that was done by El País, in which they said that a majority of people think that the way that the government has managed this pandemic or managed this health crisis has been bad or very, very bad. And I tend to agree with that. I was watching a television program last night called Salvados, and they were comparing the way that Germany has handled this pandemic and the way that Spain has handled this pandemic, and it was clear that things have been done a lot better in Germany. I think simply because Germany was better prepared for the first wave of the pandemic and better prepared for the second wave of the pandemic, and they also have politicians there that are a lot clearer with their messages, not like the politicians that we have in this country where people tell you different things on a daily basis. I think Merkel was very clear with her message from the beginning of what people needed to do in order to face the situation, but here we got a lot of mixed messages. Everybody understood the severity of the problem earlier in the year. We went into that severe lockdown, but all of that effort was wasted by opening up the economy too quickly, and now we're back into the situation where we are again today. The messages that we were getting from politicians was that the virus has gone away, that we need to go out, reactivate the economy, spend money, and of course, as we know, people went back into their old habits, and we're in this second wave now with a virtual carbon copy of the health situation. One of the things they mentioned in the show last night was that when the central government took complete control of the country, all of the autonomous communities directed their citizens' complaints towards the central government, and of course, when the state of alarm finished and the power went back to the autonomous communities, the central government stepped back and said, now it's your turn to deal with the pressure of the citizens. And we can see how that's panning out here in Spain now that the central government doesn't want to take that responsibility again. It wants to leave that responsibility with the autonomous communities, and that's why we're living this chaotic situation that we currently have in the country. Now, I saw another comment there, somebody asking what the situation is going to be like here in Spain this year for Christmas, whether people are going to be allowed to travel around the country, go back home, see their families, visit relatives. Unfortunately, at this stage, I don't really know what's going on. We're still waiting for the central government to announce stricter measures. Everybody's expecting them, but they don't seem to come. At the moment, as we know, it's almost impossible to travel around the country. You can't travel freely through the country at the moment. If you are a resident in Spain, if you're on holiday, there's no problem apparently, but if you're a resident or a citizen of the country, you can't travel freely. Is the situation going to be different by the 24th of December? I think it probably will. I think the government will allow people to have their Christmas, to visit their family, to visit their relatives. I think they most likely will put in a series of limitations. For example, how many people can come together in the one home. I imagine there's going to be limitations when it comes to Christmas dinners or Christmas lunches with work colleagues. I think there'll be some type of restrictions on those. I'm not 100% sure, of course, but I think that would be the logical thing to do, to try to cut back on those, and people will try to save the Christmas season. And I think that's what they're doing in other countries. I think that's what France is doing. I think that's what they're doing now in Germany as well, trying to get the numbers under control so that they can have some type of Christmas. Portugal, I think, is doing something similar, so I imagine that here in Spain, the end game is also that. Try to get numbers under control by putting in these restrictions, the curfews, the travel restrictions, so that people can celebrate Christmas. It might not be a normal Christmas here. I don't think it will be, but for a lot of people, it's going to be better than nothing. And finally, I'll just mention some of the spam comments that have been popping up in the comment section in recent times. Over the last few weeks, I've noticed there has been an increase in this type of comment. Normally, the comment starts off talking about somebody's financial situation. Maybe they start talking about cryptocurrency or some other type of financial instrument. And then what happens is that there is a series of comments underneath related to the same topic. And in some of the comments, they're even leaving telephone numbers or websites where you can contact people for more advice. Now, if you can do me a favor, if you see a comment like this, report the comment and we'll try to get them off the channel because they're blocking up the system at the moment. I think there was something like 25 of these comments on the video that I did yesterday, so a bit of a pain. There's also been other spammers in recent times, especially ones that offer people the opportunity to work from home, saying that you can earn a fantastic salary working from home, also trying to scam you. Not exactly sure what the actual scam is, but be careful with this type of comment. Try to avoid them, and as I said, if you see them, just report them. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Keep an eye out for spammers. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.